And I'm so happy to be here this morning to participate in your series of the Vendor Purchasing 101. And so we're going to start as soon as you guys are ready for me to begin.
We are ready.
All right. I will share my screen. Can you guys all see?
Yes, we can.
All right. Great. So I would like to start off with our mission. As you know, the Department of Transportation mission is connecting people, products, and places safely and efficiently with customer focus, accountability, and environmental sensitivity to enhance the economy and the vitality of North Carolina. The department's vision, mission, and goals guides its daily operations to ensure its wide range of projects and services meets the state's growing transportation needs. And if you look to the right of the slide, you will see the different divisions that we have in our that make up our agency. So starting at the top, you have our division of highways, you have aviation, DMV, the rail, the ferry, our ports and bridges, and turnpikes, the Global Transport, and IMD. IMD is a division that was once named Public Transportation, but in the years past, they have merged with Bike Imped and have conjoined together to make up the IMD, which is the Intermodal Integrated Modal Division, if I'm not mistaken. Next screen. So today's topics that we're going to cover are rules of state procurement, registering with the state, the electronic vendor portal, which is EVP, purchasing methods, seeking competition, solicitation methods, evaluation methods, award process, and ending with contract monitoring. So we're going to start off with our rules and our laws. Goods, what's the difference between a goods and service, the delegations and the policies, and the type of contracts that we award. So starting with the first one, the North Carolina General Statutes. So the state procurement is dictated by using these references. And our North Carolina General Statutes is laws that are primarily governed by our chapters 143 and Article 3 that we use for procurement of the North Carolina General Statutes that is administered by North Carolina Department of Administration Purchase and Contract Division, and it outlines the procedures for acquiring goods, services for state agencies, institutions, community colleges, and also the UNC system. Also use the Purchasing Contract Administrative Code, which is the NCAC, and those rules are to follow to ensure that the state acquires goods and services at fair cost and effectively uses our taxpayers' dollars. Specifically, the ones that we cover for purchasing will be Title 1, Chapter 5B for procurement. And also a reference our procurement specialist uses our North Carolina procurement manual that is dictated by the Division of Purchasing Contract as well. And we also use as a reference our agency purchasing manual of our own rules and policies. So purchasing governing authority. And as I stated, under the purchasing contract is for the goods and services. We use the general statutes of Chapter 143, Article 3, and the Administrative Code again is Title 1, Chapter 5. And if we determine that a purchasing request is for information technology, they handle theirs differently under General Statutes 147, which is the Administrative Code Title 9 and Chapter 6. And on our construction side of the house, they have their own rules, which is the construction renovation or any alterations of physical properties. Their general statutes that they must follow is chapters 116, 143, and 153 under the State Construction Manual. Who are our customers, or who are your customers? So there are 28 state agencies that you could possibly work with. There are 58 community colleges. We have 16 universities and 16 public universities, 2,500 plus public and charter schools, 100 in the 100 counties, and 500 plus municipalities. So on this chart, you see the different cabinets and council support, which includes part of that 28, 28 executive state agencies, and they are divided by the cabinet and the council. So their difference lies on how their leaders are selected. So if you look and see that Department of Transportation is a cabinet agency, which means the secretaries are appointed by the governor. And as you see, the council agencies, they are elected by the public and statewide elections. So you can get to see who are the cabinet agencies versus the council and those of the support. Need identification. Before procurement is to determine what is the need, the agency answers these questions. What are you buying? How much does it cost? Does the division have the funding? How do I buy it? And what is the documentation needed? Purchasing procedures are determined. What are you trying to buy and how much does it cost? Your goods, is it a good or is it a service? How much is the delegation? Is there mandated resources versus open market? Or are there any special circumstances? So goods versus services. Goods are all commodities, supplies, materials, equipment, and other tangible property. Anything that you can touch or feel is considered a good and is tangible. There is a vendor charge of 1.75%. So the vendor is charged of 1.75%, which is a transaction fee for the administrative use of the North Carolina e-procurement system to create a purchase order. And this fee does cover costs associated with online platform. It offers you customer support, online training, any hosting, and any catalog services related to the materials. Services, there are intangible work or tasks performed by an individual or a company that requires a specialized knowledge, experience, expertise, or some type of capabilities. And these are exempt from the 1.75%. Now, the only service that I could think of that would be used, but we don't use that, something like a dry cleaning or laundry services, that would possibly get a vendor charge of that 1.75%. But any other services are exempt from that fee. Mandated resources. So when a procurement specialist is getting ready to, after the need has been determined, we're going to find out what resources do we use. Before we consider, we must check our state term contracts, correction enterprise, state and federal surplus property, mail service center, state construction office, or state property office, and any other state agencies' MOUs. Statewide term contracts. So these contracts are established by the Division of Purchase and Contract and statewide DIT procurement for use by all agencies. Unless exempt by the statute rule or special terms and conditions specific to those contracts. So our state term contracts, there are some that are mandatory, and then there are some that can be used as a convenience. As a searchable list with contract management information on PNC and DIT website. And we use the state term contracts because they do offer lower prices, good quality products, and shorter delivery times. Open market agency delegation. So the open market is a procurement purchased according to the rules and the regulations that are set out by the state from the vendor community where no mandatory resources meet the need. Delegation, each state agency, community college, university have a set general purchasing delegation which the state procurement office, PNC, or Department of Information Technology approves, raises, or decreases. So recently in July of this year, the delegation has been improved, went up. So all purchase under the delegations are processed and executed by the agency. All purchase over the delegation must be approved by the Division of Statewide Purchasing and Purchasing Contract or Department of Information Technology. So most state agencies now, their delegation has gone up to $100,000, as well as Department of Information Technology. They were once at 50,000, so they have raised their delegation up to $100,000 as well. So here's a clear graph of the purchasing policy, the dollar value. So anything less than $10,000 is considered our micro purchase for goods or services. And usually a purchase P card, procurement card is authorized to use for those types of purchases. Then you have what we call a small purchase, and that's anything from 10,001 up to 31,000 for goods and services. And the procurement specialist is required one current informal vendor quote for RFQ required for services. The informal purchase has gone to 31,001 cents up to $100,000. And competition is required, but not advertised. The vendor requires vendor to agree to the North Carolina terms and conditions, and the RFQ is issued to at least 3 vendors. And for our formal purchase, anything greater than 100,001 and above. And this requires a vendor to agree to the North Carolina terms and conditions, and it is advertised as an open market or approved waiver. Now, contract terms, our standard contract terms are a minimum of 3 years, and anything longer than 3 years, we would have to get approval from the purchasing contract. And contracts that are estimated over $1 million must be reviewed by both our legal attorney as well as purchasing contracts legal staff. Term contracts. There's 2 types of term contracts that we work with. Our standard term contract, which is binding an agreement between the purchaser and the vendor to buy and sell certain commodities, whether it's printing or services at certain prices and under stipulated terms and conditions. Our agency-specific term contracts are contracts that are used specifically for our agency, which has an indefinite amount, quantity, and is based on historical data. And as I've stated earlier, the contract terms are a standard 3 years. Service contracts. So our service contracts are an independent vendor who performs work or task requiring specialized knowledge, skills, and experience. So examples of these types of contracts are, as you see, janitorial, landscaping, medical or lab services, hazardous waste, security guards, training instructors, and building maintenances. And so the consultant service contracts are clearly defining the objectives of the agreement and the specific services. So work or task that is performed requiring a specialized knowledge, experience, expertise, and professional qualifications to investigate the assigned problems or the project, and to provide some type of counsel, review, analysis, or an advice by formulating or implementing improvements in the program or services required. And this must be approved by our governor's office. And any vendor receiving payment for services over $600 must submit a 1099 form. Department of Information Technology purchases. They work with North Carolina General Statute 143B-1320. And this is anything that deals with procurement for hardware, software, online database subscriptions, license agreement, or data. And the statewide DIT procurement approves all technology purchases over the agency delegation. And they also have state term contracts for IT, for software, for hardware, and telecom IT services. Waiver of competition. This purchase, installment, or lease purchase, rental, or lease of goods and services by means that's other than competitive bidding. So sole source, a product or service that can only be available from one source of supply. We have brand specific, emergency needs, something that's urgent, situation where immediate action needs to be taken place. Standardization or compatibility with goods and services that needs to be compatible with existing equipment or some type of systems, and changing brands of manufacturing would hinder the continuity of that particular project. And the waiver of competition is referenced in our North Carolina Administrative Codes, Title 1, Chapter 5B.1401. Okay, that's the first one. Anybody have any questions thus far for me?
We do have a question in the chat, and that's just for some clarity on the 1.75% fee that's charged for system use. And so, Sam, do you want to elaborate on that for clarity?
So for this 1.75 is used for procurement to, I can't talk, for the purchase orders, to be able to create the purchase orders through the North Carolina e-procurement system for all goods. But that fee, again, is not placed on any service type of contract.
And the fee is assessed once a solicitation is awarded, once a vendor has been awarded.
And that purchase order is created, that's when their that fee is charged to them. Yes.
All right. I will go with Terry, who has her hand raised. Terry, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. I always learn something from these webinars. My question is it's helpful to know for the contracts that are between 30,000 and 100,000 that it doesn't have to go out to a full competitive bid. Obviously, those agencies would need to know about your company, right, to ask you to submit a proposal. And I'm wondering if you all have some best practice advice around how to make agencies and aware of you that you could even be considered for something like that. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't quite understand your question. I'm sorry, but you're saying how do you get to?
Yeah, so for contracts between 30,000 and 100,000 for most agencies, it doesn't require them going out to a public bid. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct. So what would be sent out to that vendor instead of being posted for competition would be a request for quote. And
Yeah.
so that request for quote would be sent out to that individual supplier.
So how, if for example, for me, our company has never worked with the state before. So
Mhm.
how would you recommend, starting to build those relationships so that they would even know to ask you for a quote?
Well,
Does that
it
make
starts.
sense?
Yes, it does. So what I would suggest is at that beginning point when you begin to register in our EVP portal and you select your commodities, those types of commodities are based on what your business can provide, goods or
Right.
services.
Yes.
So you would get those notifications, or if you build that relationship with one of our procurement specialists. I know when I was in a procurement specialist, I would, as a courtesy, reach out to some of the vendors that I knew that might be interested in whatever it may be I'm procuring at that time and say, hey, can you quote this? And so I would send that, and that quote does not have to be, like I
Okay.
said, that request would not have to be posted. It could be transmitted via email.
Yeah. So I have a follow-up question, if that's okay, based
Sure.
on what you said. So does that mean for the agencies that are looking for services between 30 and 100,000, that they are coordinating those requests through procurement, the procurement people? They're not going out on their own. Is that correct then?
Right. So the procurement specialists are the ones who post out, not post out, but I would say go through email to let that particular supplier know, hey, this is something that can you quote on. It's not, again,
Okay.
it's not posted for competition. So that would be a one-on-one dialogue that you and that procurement specialist would have, and that they would let you know, hey, this is what I need. Can you quote this?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So those agencies are required to go through procurement specialists to do that. They're not doing it on their own, it sounds like. So my last question is, how do you get to build relationships with procurement specialists? Like, how do you have an opportunity to meet them and build those relationships? Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. We like to have initiatives where um we do lunch and learn, tips and tricks and trades, and kind of learn who the team members are and what each role each of the procurement specialists has, because we have different levels of procurement specialists starting from ones, twos, and threes. So that's something that I'm looking forward to doing in the future so that you all can, learn who we are as a team and build that relationship with depending on which commodity you're interested in. Because again, they each have their own commodities that they normally work with.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. And I guess if we got an email for this, we would maybe be on a list for something like a lunch and learn in person or
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And
You're
and
welcome. I
Samantha,
hope I answered your question.
this is John with the Hub office.
Hi,
Just
John.
wanted to jump in there too. Terry, if it's good idea to take a look at the kinds of projects that you're interested in, and if it's possible to attend the pre-bid meetings for those things. And I realize that's publicly advertised, and what you're trying to
Yeah,
get to is the ones that are not.
well, and they almost never have pre-bid meetings because we're
Well,
management consultants.
okay.
I've never seen one that had one. And I don't know,
Okay.
probably applied for half a dozen.
Okay, so there's a couple probably different ways that you can go about reaching out. There are some, you can find the purchasing directors of different agencies, and you can reach out to them, and explain what it is you do, and ask if there's a particular person in their division that would be best to talk to about those kinds of things. To Having a capability statement is definitely helpful. And if there is any kind of meet and greet, keep an eye out for any kind of notifications for those things. And I kind of hear what you're saying. It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing. How do I get on the list if people don't know, if I don't know who makes the list, and they don't know that I do this stuff. So sometimes there are times where we have meetings or events, that may not be exactly what what you do. Like there's a state construction conference every year. There's a purchasing excellence and knowledge conference each year. And at those events, especially at the Peak Conference, you have the ability as a vendor to go in and have a table and share with folks, this is what I do. And there are some other events throughout the year, like Wake County Public Schools and Wake County, they do a fabulous meet and greet with a lot of different divisions that they have. That's not necessarily state work, but there may be some folks there from state agencies that you could connect with, or you can build your experience with those local governments and be able to say, hey, look, I've done this just at the local level. I have the experience to do it at the state level as well.
Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate the
John.
suggestions.
All right.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Right. And so with no more questions, we can proceed, Samantha.
All right, thank you, Carla. Doing business with the state. So we have our EVP basics, our electronic vendor portal, how to register in EVP, and managing your EVP account. So single EVP basics is a single cloud-based application with enhanced features for greater efficiency. It provides a single point of access for North Carolina government organizations. This is where all our solicitations are posted in EVP. Vendors will respond in EVP or through normal paper submission process. And vendors are again charged a 1.75 fee for goods only. Here are some facts and questions about EVP. Why is my company required to pay this 1.75 fee? One, as it allows the state to conduct business electronically. The vendors are able to market their business with state entities and also benefit from the processes and time savings that are possible. And it offsets the expenses of the development, like the maintenance and ongoing operations of our electronic procurement processes. How does my company benefit from using EVP? Increase access to North Carolina government markets. It's a single point of access to government entities, public schools, and the community colleges. It increases our accuracy and consistency through the delivery of electronic purchase orders and its potential for supplier cost savings in areas of processing, marketing, and administrative costs. Registration. So to start the EV process, you will need to have internet access. You would have to provide your federal tax ID employer number, and a valid email address is in order to initiate the EVP and the hub certification process. And as you see below, this is the link if you want to copy it down if you don't already know. And you can click vendor not registered or registered now. When you click on that link, it's going to take you to that web page, and you're going to click either not registered or registered now, and you complete the registration process. One thing that I would like to say as part of the registration for the suppliers is when you begin to select your commodities, try and only select the commodity codes that relate to what type of business or goods or services you can provide. You don't want to get inundated with emails of notifications that a solicitation is out there if it does not pertain to you. So that's why I urge you to only select those commodity codes that specifically speaks to your business. And there is a help desk for registrations, and it's open from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the phone number is here as you see. New North Carolina electronic vendor portal. It's free. It's an automated business opportunity notifications based on vendor selected commodities. Vendors keep their information updated. And if anything, as far as your status as your account number, I mean, not your account number, but your email and your phone number, you want to make sure that those are always current and up to date. Because if someone does a research for a hub vendor for a specific commodity, and we try to reach out based on the number that's listed, and sometimes the number is incorrect, that's a loss. Something you could have benefited on by being, active. So it's very important of keeping your information current and active as possible. EVP managing account. This is the link to EVP managing account and contacts for job aids. For step-by-step information, click on the open job aid button, and it provides direction on how you can change your password, updating your profile information, adding, deleting, or editing any contact information, and updating your vendor name if it has changed since you registered in the past, and adding or editing any location. Any questions at this point? For me, Carla?
I am going to go back to a question about consulting being approved in the governor's office. And I'm just checking to be sure it wasn't answered in the chat. Let's see if I can find it. It was one that it says, this is from Tracy Scott with UO LLC, Unlimited Options for IT Business. Can you please explain the process of being approved by the governor's office if you are a consulting firm?
Okay, I would not know the exact process of that, and I could get that information. Unfortunately, I do not have that answer in details for you at the moment.
So we can take that offline. Yes.
Yeah.
We can take it offline to provide a correct answer. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And so, Alicia, if you want to unmute and ask your question, I think.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Carla. Thank you, Ms. Samantha, for this presentation today. My question is about properly coding your company for services. So what I realized is we have a creative design consulting firm, right? Pitch decks, annual reports, websites. But what's happening is when I'm going in for codes, it's giving me engineering design, architectural design. So my question is, how do you differentiate between creative design and architectural engineering design?
What is the code that you're currently using for?
Oh Lord, there's a list.
I know.
Gosh, how would
I'm not going to say I know all the codes by heart, and I would just say that something as close to your business is about the only thing I can think of, because I don't know the numbers. So I would have to see the different commodity codes in that service field, service field, to understand, to narrow it down to just creative and not engineering. I don't know if the verbiage will read creative, or would it read instead just saying engineering, because engineering is something you create. So building, I get that. But there may be some commodity codes that narrow it down to just the being creative part of it. So it's a matter of just going through it and kind of seeing what fits closely to your business. I'm sorry if I'm a little vague on that, but I wouldn't know unless I saw it, looking at the codes myself. So I don't want to misinform you.
That's the next question. Segue to the next question. Is there a downloadable PDF with all the codes on it?
Yes.
I'll place the link in the chat.
Oh, good. Thank you, Ms. Carla.
Thank you.
And you may want to also review your keywords that you're using for the search. Another way is to, if you know of agencies, or if you can think of agencies that may use your service, try searching the agency to see what types of solicitations they posted that may match what you do. So it's a
Okay.
research and review process to kind of back into getting to the commodity codes that fit.
Okay, and when we're inside the EVP and we're underneath our profile, we can adjust those codes where again?
In your profile?
Yeah, so if you're in your profile, it says, your name, your information, then it says update or cancel. So when you're updating these codes, how do you back into that code update?
See, I'm not familiar with the vendor side of that portal. I don't know, because I was wondering if I could actually update as I talk to my suppliers and vendors to find out codes that they are registered for. I don't have that authority as well to go in and change or update. So I don't know if that's something being done on the back end or on the vendor side. I don't know. Miss Carla, would you know?
It is something that the help desk can assist with, where we post the EVP help desk number, and you do get a live person that can walk you through those
Oh,
updates in
good.
your account.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Belinda, we're happy to take your question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you go back to the previous screen that shows the profile updating
Sure.
information? Thank you.
You're welcome. This one, hit this one?
That one, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we will share the presentation via email. It will be a PDF and have the live links for you to click on.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. And so, Samantha, if no more questions, let's proceed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carla.
Welcome.
Next, we will be talking about our purchasing methods. So we have the HUB program, the HUB efforts, and our HUB certification. So historically underutilized businesses, the HUB, per Executive Order 25 and General Statute 143-128.2, which discussed that we must compete and using a HUB when we're doing procurement. The goal for the HUB participation is a 10% for both construction spending and goods and services. And our HUBs are marked in our e-procurement and EVP. And we have a HUB application, certification, and recertification processes that you can now do in EVP. And I'm happy to say, if anyone needs help with the certification, I am a HUB liaison, as Ms. Alicia mentioned earlier in the introduction. So please feel free to reach out to me for guidance, and we'll get you started on the process. DOT HUB efforts. So we make it an effort to include in our solicitations that added language about adding HUB language to all our solicitations. And you can usually find this as part of ours in one of the sections called attachments. And it's attachment D that references if you're a HUB supplier or not. And so this is the language that we use. We ask if you identify as eligible to become a HUB vendor. Are you a HUB status? Are you a tier 2 HUB vendors? Project upcoming opportunities, your annual departmental procurement plan, your monthly to the HUB office upcoming opportunities, and DOT liaison conduct market research within the HUB community to find vendors for upcoming opportunities and notices of opportunities. We notify our HUB office when we place a solicitation out on EVP. We not only put it there on the EVP, but we also place it on the HUB's website for notification as well. And so the Hub office posts those solicitations to its website, and it's a direct solicitation by DOT Hub Liaison. So our Hub plan. So the Hub plan for the open market small purchase, again, it ranges from 31,000 or less. P card is authorized, and its use of a Hub is strongly encouraged if available. The open market purchase, which ranges from 31,001 cents up to 100,000, and we have to get a minimum of 3 quotes, and the vendor must agree to the terms and conditions. And at least one of those quotes solicited should be from a Hub vendor, again, if available. So our open market purchase ranges from 100,000 to 1 and above. The purchasing solicitation is advertised, and it's normally an IFB or RFP. And the purchasing will notify the Hub office of posting to ensure that the Hub vendors are aware of the opportunity, and standard Hub language have been included in our solicitation documents. And before award, if the vendor has responded affirmative to is a Hub vendor, then the agency will confirm your certification and work with the Hub office to ensure certification before issuing a purchase order. The Hub certification process, you would start with, of course, the link to the web page is here. You want to register on the electronic vendor portal. Again, you must have internet access, and you want to complete the statewide uniform certification application or the reciprocity application. And you can download these forms as you need and provide certain documents that are requested on these forms. So the 3 possible applications, as I stated, you will fill out one. The appropriate one is going to be either the statewide uniform certification application, the NCDOT Hub reciprocity application, or would it be the North Carolina Hub reciprocity application? And then the reciprocity certification options. NCDOT for DBE certification, disadvantaged business enterprise, and if based in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia are certified by certain national entities. And here are some of the required documents from all applicants using the statewide uniform certification application: your work experience, proof of citizenship or permanent resident, proof of ethnicity, copies of any professional licenses you've required, schedule of salaries, and copies of any signed leases. List of equipment, if you own any, documented proof of any contributions you have made, statements prepared and signed by your banking institution. You'll need 2 letters of reference, a home state certification for any out-of-state businesses, if applicable, and proof of disability. So the business structure required documents. So corporations must provide the following additional information. As you see here, the official articles of incorporation, both sides of all corporate certificates and stock, transfer ledger, assumed name certificate, shareholders agreements, minutes of any first recent stockholder and board of directors meeting, and any corporate bylaws and any amendments. And you have your limited liability corporations must provide the following documentation: articles of organization, any operation agreement, your partnerships, and your franchises must also provide a franchise agreement and your partnership agreement. And that concludes that section. Are there any questions for me at this module?
We did have a question in the chat about just some clarity on what a tier 2 hub vendor is.
So a tier 2 hub vendor would be you coming in, you would not be the primary or have been awarded that contract. So you would work under that prime contractor, and that would be considered your tier 2.
Another question in the chat: if we submit a bid for a solicitation and are not selected, will feedback be available upon request?
There wouldn't be any feedback, but what I would recommend is our information is always public. So once that contract has been awarded, allow us 3 to 5 days, and that awarding bid will be posted along with the tabulations. And you can kind of go out there and see for yourself and review the person who did win and what they put into in their response, and kind of give you a gauge of, okay, for this type of bid, I see what they did, what they included. And I would say when it comes to bidding on the solicitations, you want to think about everything that it's going to cost, or everything that you got to touch, move to include in doing that particular job, or providing that, whether it's gas, whatever, overhead costs, all of that comes into your extended total price. So don't shortchange yourself, but realistically think about what it's going to take for you to do that job.
A question in the chat, and I'm reading this question because I feel the question would be good for the entire audience, for someone that may have this question. And it says, if you are Hub and NCSBE certified, can you apply for NCDOT reciprocity certification? And
yes, you can.
Well, the reciprocity does not.
For DBEs.
Exactly.
Right.
So the
Right,
question
that's for the DBEs.
Yeah. So the question is whether a person can apply for reciprocity for DBE if you're Hub or SBE certified. And that answer is no. The reciprocity does not go in that direction. If you are DBE certified, yes, you can qualify for reciprocity. But if you are Hub certified or SBE, the answer is no.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. If no hands raised, which I do not see hands raised, we can continue on.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carla. Seeking competitions, the types of solicitation documents, solicitation content, the requirements versus evaluation criteria. So solicitation planning usually starts from the end user level. And from the end user level, they will need to identify the need and define it, gather any information, develop any spec work or scope of work needed for that procurement specialist to follow through with. And then you have a purchasing gets that information. We review it, authorize, and prepare solicitation and determine which type of procurement method would be used for that solicitation. Getting your free quote now. So for quotes used for good purchases up to $31,000 or service purchases up to $10,000. Buyer is able to select from list of registered vendors, and the quote must be current at least 30 days and must be on a vendor letterhead or branded. Request for quote. A request for quote is a solicitation document normally used for non-advertised procurements, and the documents are sent directly to the vendor via email. And the vendor agrees to the North Carolina terms and conditions, and it can be used for seeking competition up to $100,000 instead of informal quote. And responses can be sent again via email, and those responses are opened immediately upon receipt. An invitation for bids is a formal solicitation document that is used to seek competition. These bids are posted to the EVP portal, and they are used for purchases estimated over $100,000, and used where bids will be evaluated and awarded. And most times our IFB are based on the lowest cost meets requirements or meets specifications. And it's a minimum of 10 days that we post our solicitation. Now, sometimes it can be extended a day or two, depending on if any changes have been made to an addendum prior to the bid being open. And there are sometimes public bid openings and potential site visits that we have required. Requests for proposals as a formal solicitation document that typically used for seeking competition and obtaining for more complex services or a combination of goods and services that are used for competitive procurements that's estimated over $100,000 in total dollar value. The division knows the end result, but the vendor proposes the best solution. And I like to say that essentially an RFP, it's going to serve as a structured invitation to the vendors to kind of showcase their capabilities and propose how they can achieve that agency requirement. And again, these are posted again a minimum of 10 days, and there are sometimes public bid openings and potential site visits. A request for information. The purpose of this is gathering information, kind of like a market research, kind of seeing what's out there, any potential vendors. It's not a solicitation, so there's no award. Just as I said, it's like a market research and seeing what's the trends out there and what's available. State terms and conditions are not required. After response period, the canceled and EVP. So a solicitation document, our sections. Now we have really 7 sections, but the first section of our solicitation starts with the purpose and background. And it's kind of giving you a description of what is being asked or what's being reviewed, need to be procured by whatever division who sent the requirement in. Now, section 2.0 is general information, contains solicitation schedule, the question period information, contents to be included with the bid, any bid submittal information and number of paper originals and paper of digital copies definitions, and section 3.0, the method of award. And this is the section that usually kind of describes how this particular solicitation will be awarded, whether it be based on low cost meet spec or requirements, or if it's an RFP, it would be evaluation criteria, best value. That's the section that you will see those types of how that process is going to be handled. Most important sections, I would say, would be sections 4.0 and 5.0, which is your requirements. Anything that it is asking of that vendor to provide is not a yes or a no. It is asking you to either submit it with your proposal response or some kind of attachment that you have to include. So that could be contract terms you see in the requirements, the pricing, invoicing, delivery requirements, any special delivery requirements, if it's any warranty, if it's asking to provide references, you need to provide references, provide any experiences, any samples, your financial stability, your certifications, any background checks and personnel information. And that information is more so geared towards like in janitorial services, where they would do licenses and background checks. And as far as references, it would be in that, as well as the janitorial usually provide references. And section 5.0 is the scope of work. I like to say the meat of the solicitation is what is being required, the objective, the specifications, the task, any deviations, certification of any safety labels, if it's equipment that you're procuring, any technical approach and project organization. Section 6.0 is our contract administration. You have your project manager information, any reports, dispute resolution, your contract changes, and product recall. And then our last section is our attachments. Pricing form, instruction to vendors, North Carolina terms and conditions, locations of your workers, the EO 50, financial condition, and your hub information, any maps or diagrams. And again, I just can't stress enough for the solicitation, no matter what the solicitation, IFB, RFP, if you're submitting, you must make sure that all the attachments are included in your response, and make sure that you read your requirements, because everything that is required for that particular solicitation, you must make sure that it's included with your bid, or that you answered the question that is being answered of the vendor responsibilities. Documents of change, an addendum. An addendum change is made to a solicitation document before opening. So say, for example, a bid is posted and it says the bid opening is tomorrow at 2 o'clock, but today we find out something's changed and it needs to be extended out. That information would be posted as an addendum, and it will be uploaded up into the EVP. So it's very important, if it's something that you're responding to periodically check your EVP for updates or any changes as such. Request for clarification. That's sent to the vendor to confirm offer during the evaluation period. So say we've got a bid and we're going through the pricing that the vendor submitted, and looks like your math might be off or their math might be off. So a clarification, just a simple email that we would email to the vendor and say, hey, you put XYZ, did you mean this or did you not? So that's clarification for you to continue with the evaluation process. The best and final offer, that's the BAFO, sent to vendors to confirm any negotiations during that. It ensures that all the bidders have an opportunity to present their most competitive offer before the agency can make the decision. And the government entity may consider factors beyond price, such as the bidder's reputation, quality, and reliability. And amendment. An amendment is changes made to a contract after it's been awarded. So say the contract has been in existence for a year and you have a price increase of your products. That's an amendment. So the procurement contract administrator who's handling that contract would amend that contract, and both parties would need to agree, sign, and execute the document for files. Submitting a bid or proposal. Read the entire solicitation. As I said, it's very important to make sure that you read everything. Signature, execution, and down here below where you see this blue arrow, if this is not signed, we don't move forward with that bid, and it's considered non-responsive. So it's very important that you pay attention to the shalls, the musts, and the mandatory, because that is something that you have to submit or do within this solicitation. So solicitation schedule, this is usually in our section 2.0, and it shows when the bid was posted. If there's a pre-bid meeting or a site visit, you would see that date and time here. If there isn't, of course, you wouldn't see that. And there's a time period to submit written questions. So in that section 2.0, you would see if your vendor has any questions to submit their questions to the procurement specialist by this date and time via email. So you want to make sure if you have a question to submit it before the deadline closes, and all questions that are received during that period are then again uploaded into EVP for everyone to review whatever questions may have been asked with the state responses. You have submit your bid, usually when the bid opening is. Contract award and a contract effective date are two different things. Contract award, say the award was, we made the award today, but the contract doesn't officially goes into effect until that purchase order is created, and that might be a different date. So that's what those two dates means. And so here is the vendor questions. Vendor may only contact the purchasing staff listed on the solicitation during that process, and you submit your questions in writing per the directions in the solicitation. So written questions shall be emailed to whomever the person is at that email address. And you want to reference the bid and the question in this section. So all vendors' questions submitted by the deadline will be answered and posted to the EVP in an addendum. Site visits. Site visits or pre-bid meetings are only necessary if the vendor will need to physically see the location or gather additional information to provide a responsible proposal. And most times they're like for janitorial, so you have to be there to see the building and see the square footage of what will be is required to be cleaned. Excuse me. So mandatory, you're going to see the specific date, the time, the location. The vendors must sign in and out with a time of arrival and departure noted. So we do have an attendance sheet. If you are late to that mandatory site visit, we will not accept your bid response. So be sure if you're required to attend a mandatory site visit that you are there on time. Late vendors can attend, but offer will not be accepted. So offers from late vendors or vendors who did not attend will, as I said, will not be accepted. Now, if there's a meeting that's urged and cautioned, does not mean we will not take your response, but it's urged and cautioned because of something that you didn't know at the time that you know now. So vendors must sign in again. Late vendors can attend, and attendance is not a requirement to accept offers. Submittal instructions. Be sure to follow the instructions of the solicitation document, including bid submittal processes, deadlines, and mandatory return information, and mandatory site visits. So a direct submittal is again by email or by mail, and then or through the EVP portal. Vendor requirements. Specifications that a vendor must meet or submit with its proposal to be found responsive. Requirements are yes or no and not evaluated. So example, a vendor must deliver product within 15 consecutive calendar days. Vendor must submit with its proposal a copy of its general contractor license. Vendor must submit with its proposal 3 references where it has performed similar work, and vendor must provide product service manual. So as you see the word must, those are things that you have to provide with your bid response in order for it to be responsive. Evaluation criteria. Evaluation criteria is to how the vendor plans to complete the project. Possible evaluation criteria. Vendor experience in its proposal. You got your staffing plan, who will perform the work, and your technical approach. And these evaluation criteria, I would say, are more geared towards your RFP, request for proposals, specifically to them, because it explains how it's going to be evaluated, not low cost, meets specifications or requirement, but how it's going to be measured. Any questions at this point?
All right. We do have a question about the 10-day minimum for responding to solicitations.
Okay.
And that is from Terry. Terry says she finds, or they find 10 days to be really fast to complete an RFP to complex scopes of work. It often makes me think the solicitor already has a vendor in mind. Do you think this would generally be true? Would it be considered to make the minimum period for responses longer? And I'm reading that, Samantha, just from a procurement perspective, for a response for Terry.
Okay. As I said, we've always posted minimum, but it can be extended. I've had an RFP that was definitely posted longer than 10 days. And it depends on all the logistics, or if we see we don't have enough responses coming in, that's when an addendum could be done and saying that we're going to extend it out another week and give more people the opportunity to bid. So it's not set in stone that 10 days is it. So we are open to extending the bid openings longer.
And keeping in mind that this is from a DOT point of view, other agencies may post longer depending on the complexity of the solicitation.
Right.
So that 10 days is a minimum.
That's correct. Thank you.
Another question in the chat. I'm not sure if this was discussed. Where in the EVP portal or Hub website can we view upcoming meetings / projects on construction projects? And in EVP, you can search filter your search for construction projects and see what type solicitations are out there, and peruse to see ones that have pre-bid meetings. On the Hub website, we have our solicitation portal, and you can filter your search by construction projects per project type, and also peruse those to see.
Okay.
Next question in the chat: if you are a new company or provider and you have no reference to provide, is that an automatic disqualifier?
If it's a requirement, yes, I would say it would be as considered as a non-responsive bid, because it's saying, it's asking you to provide references. Not all solicitation asks for references. It depends on what's being procured at that time. But if it's part of the requirement, then you have to have something listed.
All right. And then she followed up with a question, or there's a follow-up question: does the reference have to be located in North Carolina?
No. As long as you have a reference contact information, that's enough for us.
All right. No hands raised, and so let's push forward, Samantha.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, solicitation response methods. So there's a direct submittal, EVP collaborative, EVP solicitation search and response. So how do I submit my proposal? It would be one is direct submittal over email, like we discussed earlier, through RFQ responses or any IRQ PDF responses, and it must be current and less than 30 days. Or you can do the EVP collaborative within the e-procurement, or you can submit through EVP by mail or e-procurement sourcing tool. And that's where we post our bids in the EVP. And agencies use EVP vendor search to find vendors. And that's where we do our search for hub vendors through the portal. Collaborative space. Requisitioning is the formal quoting and pricing request function within the North Carolina e-procurement system. Users can use collaborative requisitions to obtain quotes for goods and services from multiple vendors at the same time. And the vendor can agree to the terms and conditions and use for purchases up to, and I'll change that, up to 100,000. And here is the training resource link for that collaborative space. EVP solicitation search and response is used to post formal, which is a IFB, invitation for bid or request for proposal solicitations. It allows the state agencies to advertise solicitations for goods and services. We're seeking open and fair competition, and the bidders' tabulations prices are posted once the bids are open. So post notices of a contract awards. As I stated earlier, the EVP is where we use for posting our solicitation, posting our tabulations, and posting the award of that particular contract. So all that information is public information and can be seen. And it allows the vendors to market your goods and services, search for business opportunities 24/7. It's a free registration. It allows for free notification of business opportunities. So when I mentioned earlier about your commodities, if we're doing a procurement on, say, concrete, and your commodity is concrete, you will get that notification that, hey, something is out there from agency NCDOT about concrete. Let me see if there's something that I'm interested in. But that's why it's important to make sure you don't get inundated with a whole bunch of other commodity codes that's going to block the ones that you really need to see and be interested in. So as a new person, or if you're familiar with the EVP link, this is the first page that it brings you to. On the left side is the side that our sales procurement specialist uses to browse solicitations, or we can browse and search hub vendors. On the right side is more side for the vendor EVP portal. You would do all your registration or your updating of your account information profile. All that stuff is done on the right side of the screen. And you see up at the top where you sign in with your existing EVP login, or the vendor sign in with existing EVP login or register account. So as Ms. Carter kind of touched on, if you're looking for a specific and you don't get notifications, or you just want to see what's out there, you can filter solicitations by category, department, when it was created, and apply, and all those solicitations will show. So for example, if you wanted to see what kind of bids DOT have out there, under category, you would choose state agency. Under the department, you would find Department of Transportation, and created on, you want to choose any bids that's open, or if you want to see something that was awarded, you would choose awarded to kind of see how that bid was awarded based on the information they response. And you can apply those filters, and it will give you a list of the awarded contracts under DOT, as well as any contracts that are open. But you would have to select the, which one you want, open or award, not both at the same time. So here's one of our teammates do aggregate. So this is the bid number, and our bids always start with 54, and it's Department of Transportation. Status is open, and the opening date when it was bid opening and when it was posted. And so this is what you will come to respond to solicitation. You would see click on that, see the actual bid, and download and print it off for you to read and review, and to see what needs to be presented with the response. And so when you click in on that actual bid, this is the page you would see to review any information about that document. Click review prerequisites to accept the bidder agreement, continue the process. And through EVP, our bid openings are always at 2 o'clock, but through the EVP system, there is a delayed time. So sometimes the bid doesn't actually begin to like 2:05, but that's just something with the system. So this is where you would come and everybody who's in attendance on the call would, listen to all the bids that are being opened and sent by whom. Any questions?
Question in the chat. There was a question about sharing the link for collaboration.
I'll go back to that. Let me see.
Okay. Collaborative space. And this is Ariba, is that correct? Is this where through EVP, Ariba
Yes.
is the tool that's
Yes.
used for collaboration? So if you are registered as a vendor and accessing EVP, you have access to Ariba. It may be a separate sign up in the system. I'm not sure, Samantha, do you know?
Yes, for Ariba, yes. Well, yes, you do, but that's through e-procurement, because I know when we search for hub vendors, the biggest thing we want to make sure that your EVP and e-procurement's registered. So that all ties in together.
Excellent.
Can you just say a little bit about what the collaborative, what that is exactly?
So collaborative requisitioning, meaning that both systems are syncing together. So the EVP is where you would register, but once a purchase order is created, it's created through Ariba, the purchasing e-procurement. That's where the purchase order is created through that. So it
once you
syncs
have
together.
the contract. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. No more questions in the chat. If someone has a burning question about this portion, feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute and get your question answered.
Any more?
I believe a question in the chat. And I think we'll take this one, Samantha, so you can move on.
Okay, Ben. All right, so our next module is going to discuss the evaluation process. In this process, you got your bid openings, your evaluation methods, your reference checks, executive order 50, and clarifications and BAFO, best and final offer. Bid and proposal opening. So part of the formal bid process, we publicly open at date, time, and location specified in that solicitation. Any late bids or proposals are not accepted. So we've had a situation where someone had a bid delivered. It was from mail, and it came in on that day of the bid opening, but it was not received until after 2. So we could not accept it. Even if you walked in the bid yourself at 2:01, we couldn't. It would be taken, but it would not be considered responsive. So it's very important to pay attention to the date and time and the location of the bid, because you want to make sure that it's on time and not considered non-responsive. And there's a attendance sheet. And sometimes at bid openings, we do have public people who will come in and want to hear the bid opening. You are welcome to sit in on those, so we don't turn you away from that, and where we read the bid, who the vendor is, and what their extended price was for that particular commodity. And vendors can contact purchasing agent listed on the solicitation during the evaluation period, All information except bidder's name and price is confidential until after award. For DIT purchases, price remains confidential until after award. Tabulations, as I stated earlier, are posted to EVP with the names of the bidders and updated to show pricing after the bid has been awarded. You will see who bid, but you won't see the pricing until after the contract has been fully executed and awarded. So evaluation methods. Lowest cost method, awarding the lowest cost excuse me, to the lowest vendor meets all requirements of solicitation and offer the lowest cost to the agency. And those typically refers to our IFBs. Your best value and your weighted method and the narrative method, pretty much specifically for RFPs. And depending on, for the RFP, we like to use the narrative method and more so than a weight method. Instead of using numbers, we use the narrative method of why we feel that this particular vendor was the best quality, best meets the needs of the required procurement. Reference check. The references section can be added to the solicitation document, and it can be made as a vendor requirement to submit with proposal. It's used to confirm vendor has performed the service or has offered the product to the same size and scope and job performance. The state will ask all references the same questions. Look for vendor must or vendor may provide. So look at that very carefully. If it says it must, then we will be looking for that. And the references may be checked. Clarifications and baffles. Request for clarification is sent to the vendor to confirm the offer during the evaluation stage, and it's not a usually yes or no confirmation. You're clarifying something that's unclear in the vendor's proposal, and the state cannot ask the vendor to provide additional information not already submitted with proposal, and the vendor cannot alter the proposed price submitted in the proposal. And so the BAFO, the best and final offer, is sent to the vendor to confirm negotiations during the evaluation stage. And that can be negotiations can take place over the phone or can take place through an email, but must be confirmed on this document. It can alter a vendor's proposal, and the state does not have to negotiate with all vendors, and the vendor is requested to submit best and final offer. Executive Order 50, excuse me, offers a price matching opportunity for North Carolina vendors. So what that means, the vendor headquarters must be located in North Carolina, and it used for goods only and not services. And the vendor must indicate whether it wants to participate. So in that solicitation document, you will see that section that discusses the EO 50, and you can check the box to say you want to participate in that. And the vendor to complete the attachment must solicitation must be notarized. So in the North Carolina vendors pricing, what must be within 5% or $10,000 of the non-resident vendor in order to win the EO 50 match.
Okay, so questions we have answered, or we're answering the questions in the chat.
Okay.
If there's anyone that has any other questions, you can unmute or raise your hand and unmute to ask the question. All right, so seeing no takers with that, Samantha, we can proceed.
All right, thank you. The award process. We're going to discuss the award notifications, the purchase orders, and invoicing. The award notification. So the vendor notification, the purchasing agent sends the certification of award memo to the vendor. All documentation will be attached in the e-procurement. A purchase order will be issued. An award posted to EVP within 3 days of the final approvals. And once the contract is received, the vendor may contact the administrator for any questions or kickoff meetings or anything like that that needs to be discussed prior to beginning the project. Purchase orders. So on the purchase order, this following information is included on that. It's descriptions of the items or the service, your contract number or the accounting codes, pricing, any delivery schedules, payment terms, and our payment terms are usually 30 days. Effective dates of contract term, including any renewals, transportation and freight, terms and conditions, comments to the vendors, and buyer and contract administrative contact information. Invoicing. So the vendors invoice the ordering division, and usually in the solicitation, you will see where the section that talks about invoicing and whom you should send the invoices to, the division, their name and contact number. Ensure the remit to address is current and the vendor can update that in EVP. Typically, state pays net 30 and check writes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the state does have the capability for electronic payments, and the vendor must submit form found in the Office of State Controller website at this link below. Okay, questions again?
There are no new questions in the chat. I do have a hand raised, and
Okay.
so please unmute and ask your question, Placidia.
Hey, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
So my question is, since the state has designated IT companies, are bidders required to obtain a quote from the listed company or contact for the solicitation?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Yeah, it's in the chat. Since the state has designated IT companies, are bidders required to obtain a quote from the listed contact for the solicitation?
So you're asking if bidders are required to get a quote from the designated IT companies?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
John, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one.
I can give you a contact with IT to get that question answered for their process.
Yeah, and yeah, Carla, I think that's probably a good idea. I'm not totally sure of like when that might happen on the bids. If you come across that, there is a question and answer period during bids, and you can reach out to the contact for that bid to ask for clarity about that. I'm not sure that I've seen a bid where it says you have to select from one of these companies to use them. Typically, when bids are put out, they're asking for somebody to come to them to tell them what they can do, how much it's going to cost. So yeah, I'm not saying that it can't happen. I just think it's probably unusual that they would be directing you to use certain vendors. Now, they may want to be saying, hey, we need this particular thing installed, and it's got to be this type of equipment. And it might say specifically we need this table. It's the only table that will do the job, and it needs to be done there. It might also say, and it might direct you to say, this is the only vendor we will accept it from. But it may also be or equivalent kind
Functionally
of product.
equivalent. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So it may give you that flexibility, and maybe that's an example that you're experiencing, that they want you to provide a particular type of thing that fits in with what they already have. That might be it, but it's probably worth a call to the contact on the bid to clarify that.
And
Okay,
also,
thank
I'd
you.
like to add too, that you would see that in section 5.0, as far as the scope of work and the scope of work and the specifications of what's being procured, because they have to have at least a minimum of functionally, if not exact, but functionally equivalent to what they're asking for. So kind of give you some leeway in between there, if it's not exactly what they want, but it's functionally equivalent to, can do the same job that they're wanting to see as results.
And I did put the hub, I think she's the hub coordinator for DIT. I did put that information in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have Deanna, if you want to unmute and ask your question. Or
Well, I did put,
Okay.
and hello, and I did put this in the chat as well. Did Miss Samantha mention that she will share her contact information if we have questions?
Yes, I will do that right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? We currently do not have hands raised, and so we will proceed. Samantha,
Oh, I will.
and your email is showing in the share.
Thank you. All right, sorry about that. All right. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. Now, next module is contract monitoring, where we're going to discuss the contract management, inspections and testing, renewals and amendments, vendor protests, and public records requests. So contract kickoff meeting. This is what I was talking about. After the contract has been awarded, you now are meeting with the contract administrator and the end user and clarify any terms and conditions you may have, clarify any goals or objectives, communicate the roles and responsibility of all parties, and clarifying any delivery expectations. Inspection and testing. The state will notify the vendor of any damaged goods, inaccurate orders, or late shipments. And we do not consider an order has been received until inspection or any installation has been done and is complete. Then we will mark that, that it is good, that we've received it. And also quality acceptance and inspection, delivery and installation. Invoices will not be paid until using agency completes the inspections and the goods are accepted. The delivery is not to be considered to have occurred until installation has been completed, including any disposal of waste, any debris from the site, and the vendor is to be responsible for leaving the installation area clean and ready to use. Any vendor complaints, inspections, and complaints are documented by the contract administrator. And the formal vendor complaints from purchasing officer include some type of cure actions and deadline. So we like to handle those kind of vendor complaints in-house, starting with the informal, typing up a document, sending it to the vendor, making them aware of these concerns, and we try to resolve the matter within house instead of escalating it and going outside of our agency. Renewals. So standard contract term, as we stated, is 3 years. Purchasing contract and Department of Information Technology's approval is required if it's over 3 years. The renewals are optional and do not have to be exercised, and the renewal agreement is sent to the vendor prior to the expiration, and the state will generate a new purchase order for each year of the contract or update any existing purchase orders. And amendments are used to change the rates, contract terms, the scope, cost, etc. Those are considered your amendments after the contract has been in place and you want to do a change rate. That will be considered an amendment, and all parties would have to execute that for it to become binding. And only the agency purchasing office can change those terms and of the contract. Vendor protest. So the vendor must submit a written request to the procurement director for awards up to $50,000 and to the state purchasing officer with the Division of Purchasing contract for awards of $50,000 up. It must be submitted within 30 days, consecutive calendar days from the date of the contract award. And all protest letters must contain specific reasons and any supporting documentation of why they are making this protest. Public record request. So public record requests, our vendors are able to submit a public records request for awarded contracts. And so those contracts, if you go to NCDOT and type in public records, it's going to take you to that link or to that page where you will come down to the bottom of that page and see public records. And our public records process begins with our communications department. So once you submit your request to the communication department at that link, it would then be routed to the director of our procurement office. And the director then notifies that particular procurement specialist to provide the following documentation. And it would conclude, again, the title, the contract number, who was awarded, the contract number, if any purchase orders were created, how do you want to receive the requested records? It can either be electronic, it could be a paper or physical review. And note, only pricing information and current vendor on current or past contracts can be released while a contract is out for bid. And here are some quick websites for resources: the State Purchasing Contract website, DIT, the EVP, e-procurement, and our hub office website. Any questions at this time?
We do not have questions in the chat. We're happy to entertain questions. If you want to raise your hand, and Terry, I see your hand. You can unmute.
Thank you. Could you put that, just the website for the state procurement office in
Sure.
the chat? That would be great. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? No hands raised and no questions in the chat. Samantha, I think that concludes our training.
Okay.
Anything
Yes.
else? I'm sorry.
I said that was the last of my slides, and I appreciate you guys taking your time out of your busy day to come in and listen to our Procurement 101. And if you have any further questions beyond this training, please feel free to reach out to me. I am here to assist you in any kind of way that I can.
And from the Hub office, on behalf of Alicia Lyon and our Hub team, again, as Samantha said, thank you so much for taking the time to attend our Purchasing 101 training. And this ends our session.